Hello everybody, Lawrence Fleming here again. It is so nice to be able to get out. The rain has stopped. There's still a lot of mud around, but the rain has stopped. We're not supposed to have any rain till Thursday. Pray that it holds off until after I move, because I have to move campsites. I'm moving to another camp, another park. So I have to be able to break everything down and set it all back up, hopefully in dry weather. Because if it's raining really hard, I can't set up anything. Because my tent, when you first open it up, it's open to the sky except for a mesh. And the mesh has a separation between it and the rainfly. So until I get the rainfly on, talking about mud, it is slippery through some of this mud. Okay, for today, I want to talk about, I need your help to get this channel out there. We're running out of time. Whether it is the Rapture this fall or something from the harlot, something from our government, something big is going to happen this fall. And when it does, the whole world is going to begin to notice, if they haven't already. I've talked about this before, but parts of Europe are already feeling tremendous pressure of not having the money to survive. Some mother was interviewed on the news somewhere in Europe saying her choices are simple: feed her family or heat her house. Inflation has driven everything up. Food is up. So if you spend the extra money on food, then you're going to be short money to heat your house. You might have enough for a couple of the really cold nights, but a lot of places they won't even have that. We've seen inflation here. I mean, if you bought a can of beans for 60 to 80 cents a few months ago, that same can is over $1 now. So I told you to be prepping. And if you bought a case of those beans a few months ago, see how much money you're saving. It's not too late to keep prepping now, because if it's $1.20, it's going to be $2.20 in a year. Remember, the Bible tells us a day's wage for a loaf of bread, essentially. These are just our physical needs, and God knows about them. That's why He sent people ahead to warn people. Like I said, I follow a few farmer slash, that's right, forgot there's a tree that fell and it's blocking the road. You gotta kind of walk over it. Some farmer types that are really working hard right now, trying to can as much as they can, because they know they're going to need it. Canning everything. One of the ladies, I am terrible with the memory, and if I don't write it down, I don't have it as a resource, but it's Appalachian something, and then it's got her name. Her and her husband live on a farm in the Appalachian country, obviously. Tennessee, probably, from the accent. And they've been telling us about all kinds of problems that they've got coming up. Shortages of seeds even. Even the things that you would need to prepare, there's going to be shortages of. This is orchestrated. They're cutting everything at every level. They don't want you to be able to do anything on your own. They want you to come hand out, cup in hand. Please feed me. Thank you, sir. Can I have another? This is class warfare to the nth degree. This is the harlot setting up the new something order. Gotta watch what I say. And they will not let anyone or anything get in the way of it happening now. They have made so much progress in the last 2 years under our current administration that they are not going to step backwards. Because if they do, it will be defeat. If they lose this round, this coming election, we will put a grinding halt to everything that they've been doing, reversing everything. You know what Big T did when he got in? He reversed everything. That's why they did everything to get him out. And they're not going to let him get back in. He's still got 2 years, but they're using him as a distraction. But they're also revealing their cards. All of us, me, we're all terrorists according to them. And they will treat us as terrorists. The harlot will have the blood of Christians on them, on the harlot. The harlot is really not a person. It's going to be, it says 7 mountains. Well, that means there's 7 areas of control, power. Everything that Satan does copies God. He hasn't got an original bone in his body, or soul, or whatever you want to refer to Satan. Everything he does, he copies God, and then he, sorry for the wording, but bastardizes it. You know, God gave Noah the rainbow as a sign of his covenant that he would never attack earth by water again. And it's turned into a symbol for a group that shouldn't exist. Remember what I say, hate the sin, don't hate the sinner. Pray for the sinner. But I gotta push. I've got to get, I'm slowly growing, which is good, because every once in a while they change the algorithm and I start losing members. If I don't say the word rapture 1,000 times in a video, I start losing people. That's all everybody's concerned with. They just want the rapture. Well, if you saw my last video, that's not our job, to be looking for the rapture. It's a fun thing to do, but that's not our job. We were given talents to invest. We can't invest them if we're sitting on our porch in a rocking chair waiting for the rapture. I hope I can make this trail all the way to where I want, because it's pretty muddy. We'll give it a shot though. But in order to increase my membership, I need your help. What am I, about 1870 subscribers? Bless you and thank you much for being here. I know that many subscribers come in, watch one video, follow the instructions to subscribe, and then go on about their business, and you never see or hear from them again. I know, that's going to be the case any time. But a number of you are regulars. I recognize your handles. I wouldn't necessarily know you in the street, because our icons are so small. But if we ever are at an event and you recognize me, please tell me. But what we've got to do, and this is where I need your help, if everybody shares my videos, I don't even care if you say anything or not. You know, check out this video, it's cool, or just share it just straight off. It will go to your subscribers. And if every one of you has, just pick a number, 300 subscribers to your channel. Well, I'm going to round mine up to 2,000 to make the math easy as I'm walking. $2,000 times 300 is 60,000. That would be a cool number to reach from my small channel. And once I get, some of those subscribers over, we're not going to get everybody. But let's say I can get up to 5,000. And we wait a month and do it again. You see how exponentially math works? Oh God, this mud is just... It rained for a week off and on, and really hard the last day. We have a creek running. I can see the water, you probably couldn't. Let's see down there. There's going to be water running for a long time. The river's up a little bit. It takes a lot to bring a river up. And it's also very muddy, which is a sign that we had a lot of rain. I'm just on a very common trail. I've been on this one a number of times. I'm going to the tower. There's another tree down. And more mud. And the bugs are out because it's so humid. The only thing good about today is it's not raining, well, the two things, and the temperature is not god-awful bad. It's in the high 70s, but we're not in the 80s, 90s, or 100s. We've got fall coming. I see a lot of leaves on the ground. We haven't had really cold temperatures, but it got down to like 65 this last week. Compared to the temperature that we've had, that's a good temperature. In another month, if we're still here, I'm going to have to hit my storage unit up and start pulling more of my winter gear out. I won't necessarily put my summer gear up, but I will put another bag together. I have my clothes in wardrobe bags, because these I would take pre-made up to different jobs when I was working. I like to have my own wardrobe so I can get in and out quicker. I do have to pay for dry cleaning, but I can get in and out fast. Whereas everybody else, they're stuck with trying to go through the long lines at the beginning and the end of the days. But I have, as I've said, totally retired from that now. And I've got offers, invitations, even though I've made my account inactive for my main casting company. I still get invitations every other day. One of them is for a series called The Covenant. Yeah, that sounds like something I want to be part of. One show that I am proud of for what I saw is called Monarch. And that's coming out on 9/11, I think. It's got Trace Atkins in it, the main character. It's kind of got a country music theme to it, so if you're into that, you should like it. It starts off with his wife is played by Susan Sarandon. So I got to work with both of them early on. It follows in my opinion, it follows the Cash family, Johnny Cash and June Carter Cash, because June dies off early on, and so does Susan Sarandon's character. No one's been out here in the spider webs. There's no spiders. They run their webs across between trees, and I walk through them. They're just a distraction. I've got little bugs around me. Again, just a distraction. It's a mile course to go out to the tower. One way, you got to turn around and come back. So I'm going to wrap this up here in a little bit. We're going to look at some scriptures, but basically I need your help to get this ministry to grow as fast as possible over a short period of time. Because one, people need this. These messages are from God. They're not from me. I can't come up with this much stuff. And the world needs to hear messages like mine, and there's others out there as well. Anytime you find a page that has videos that you like and you watch, the minimum you have to do, otherwise you're just being a pacifist, and you can't, in this time, you haven't got time to be a pacifist. You got to like every video that you watch. Because that gives them a little counter that YouTube looks at and goes, okay, people like to watch these videos, so we got to show them. Because YouTube, long before I started monetizing my channel, YouTube was monetizing it. I wasn't going to do it. I didn't need to do that. God takes care of me. But I wasn't going to let YouTube have all the money, so I monetized it. Now they have to share it. They find ways to delay giving me the money. They're still greedy. But eventually I get it. Usually when I need it. God's good that way. Everybody is saying something big is coming this month. Nobody has any idea. Gotta watch my steps here when I'm talking and not watching the trail. So, are we going to get something big from God, i.e. a rapture? Possibly. Are we going to get something big from the harlot, New World, organized? I don't know how to say that. New World Organization. I just got to watch the buzzwords. I'm bouncing a lot. There's a guy on that I like to watch who's a prepper. He's ex-military. He's living on a farm someplace that he's basically moved away from the city to be out on his own in case he has to prep big time. He's okay. He's got a beard. God, I can't think of his name. Again, if I know I'm going to talk about these people, I'd write their names down. I'll see if I can put their names down below when I edit this video. In any case, he's talking about getting ready to go gray, to disappear. he's saying that something big is coming. I've been saying something big is coming for some time. It's logical. I don't have any biblical proof for anything. Nobody does. We don't know. We know that, if we watch people like Brenda, we have the events and the order of events, but we don't know when they start. There's really nothing to tell us when things are going to start. All we have are the things that are going to happen. So we're going to know when it starts, when those things begin to happen. Well, that's pretty good. You walk with me now. I'm coming up on the tower. It's almost a mile. I have to go past it about 50 feet to where the mile marker is. 100 feet, maybe. But we're stopping here. I'll climb up the tower. Let me see. There's the tower. And what do we have for a view? I'll shoot some bee footage up on top to let you see, but the river's right there. On a good day when there's people out, there'll be some fishermen there. So let me stop this while I climb up the stairs, because I don't need to jar you all the way up. And I'll do some bee footage at the top. And again, as always, Bible study at the end. All right, when I tell people about this place, I tell them that you'll be surrounded with trees all the way here, and I was. And then when you get to the tower, you can climb up 20 feet to the landing up here and still be surrounded by trees. But you got benches. You're just 20 foot higher. Nice peaceful river. It is up quite a bit. I'd say at least a foot, maybe 2. Very brown, all the runoff. Nice little bench there to sit at, have a picnic. This is close enough that you could walk in a picnic basket. Yogi Bear doesn't live here, so there'd be no problem, other than maybe ants. The trail continues on. Just around that bend is where the marker is. And you can turn to the right and go back through those woods and hit the main trail. So it's kind of a mini loop. The canopy will keep you sort of dry. I've got a plane flying over, a small one. There's a box on that big tree right there. They put bird boxes and bat boxes around. And my way back down. Okay, well, I'll get back down to earth and I'll do a little bit of Bible study. But since this was an actual hike video, I'm not going to do a whole lot. But I don't want to leave you without God's Word directly. Okay, I'll see you for the study. Heading back. Okay, everybody, let's get started with our study this morning. We're going to be reading out of the book of James. Historically, James is considered to be the half-brother of Jesus, but other than the time frame, 45 to 60 AD, it really doesn't give us any other indication. This is a generic letter, not written to any one particular church, just one to be passed around. It's a handbook of how to live a Christian life. Now, James is Jewish. He's writing to Jewish Christians. So there will be some references back and forth, but the bottom line is this to Christians in general. If this is the half-brother of Jesus, he ran the church in Jerusalem. And if it was 62, up to 62 AD, the temple is still intact. They haven't been totally scattered. Christians have been scattered, but not the Jews. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to start reading in chapter 1, verse 1. James, a bondservant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ. You should know what a bondservant is, but I have readers from all over the world in different levels. A bondservant is a slave that was set free and chose not to leave his good master and stay there as a permanent slave. Someone like that would typically have authority over lesser slaves, assuming that this person was a good person, a Christian. It would be easy to figure out how to put them in charge of everything. Joseph would be a good example. To the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. So he's writing to the Jews. Greetings. My brethren, count it joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives it to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith, with no doubting, for if he doubts, he is like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. For let not man be supposed that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man and unstable in all his ways. Do everything you do in faith. It doesn't have to be a big faith. The faith of a mustard seed can move mountains. Mustard seed's the smallest seed in the world out there. Let the, verse 9, let the lowly brother glory in his exaltation, but the rich in his humiliation, because as a flower in the field it will pass away. For no sooner has the sun risen with a burning heat that withers the grass. Its flower falls, and its beautiful appearance perishes. So the rich man will also fade away in his pursuits. Blessed is the man who endures temptation, but when he has been approved, he will receive the crown of the Lord that the Lord has promised to those who love him. Let no one say when he is tempted, I am tempted by God, for God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone else. But each one is tempted when he is drawn away by his own desires and enticed. Then when desire has conceived, it gives forth to sin, and to sin, when it is full grown, brings forth death. Do not be deceived, my brethren, that every good and perfect gift is from above, and comes down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow or turning. Of his own will he brought us forth by the word of truth, that we might be a kind of firstfruits of his creations. So then, my beloved, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. For the wrath of man does not produce the righteousness of God. And finally, I just want to read this last one here, verse 21. Therefore lay aside all filthiness and overflow of wickedness, and receive the meekness of the implanted word, which is able to save your souls. But be doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man observing his natural face in the mirror. For he observes himself, goes away, and immediately forgets what kind of man he was. But he who looks into the perfect law of liberty and continues in it, is not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work. This one will be blessed in what he does. And I wanted to read one of the commentaries here as well. James got to see the practical side. If he really is the half-brother of Christ, he got to see Christ growing up. Did he see God growing up, or did he see a kid growing up? I think a good kid, but I don't think you could have seen God running around and playing as a kid. I'm sure Jesus had fun times playing. He had to grow up like we did. He had to go through all the things that we did. Otherwise, he couldn't claim to represent us properly. But he did grow up, and if James watched this, he just saw what it was like to be a good kid. Now, when Jesus got older and able to do so, he would then go to the temple and teach and talk, and he still had his career of being a carpenter. That's a trade that you have to do a lot. And did his father give him a stick and say, here, carve this? I don't know. But if he was a carpenter, he had to do some work. He had to support the family. The family back then, Joseph and Mary, they may have been given an endowment early on by the wise men, but they had to live out the rest of their lives. So they had careers, they had trades that they could do. They didn't go to college. There were people that were involved in the ministry back then. We know Luke was a doctor, Matthew a tax collector / accountant, someone who works with numbers. But not everyone was. We know that the majority of them were fishermen. Again, worthy trades. I think our TV celebrity Mike Rowe has it right. He shows us that we can do dirty jobs and be proud in what we do. Anything that we do, will we do it for the glory of God, will glorify God. But we have to take the time to reach out to people. We're going to meet people every day. If you're going to work, you're going to meet the same people every day. The thing that you can do for them, if they're not Christians, would be to let them see you happy and smiling in everything you do. The boss just gave you a dirty job to do. Don't go walking around complaining about it. Be happy that you have a job, for one. Be happy that you can do it in the Spirit of God. Eventually, these other people are going to get dirty jobs too, and they're going to say, how do you do this? The Spirit of God in you. What do you mean, the Spirit of God? How can that be? What can you gain from that? You've got an open invitation to talk. Get them to join you for a cup of coffee and talk. Don't throw the whole Bible at them. If they're not Christians, you can't feed them meat. You have to give them milk. Pour some milk in their coffee. Do a little bit at a time. We don't have a lot of time left, but we have enough time for you to witness. If you only have time to witness to one more person before we're raptured, do it. Don't say, well, we're getting out of here soon. I don't have time for this. No. James will be the first one to tell you the practicality of doing everything towards God. Be a cheerful worker. Talk to your workers. Help them out. If one of them says, I'm having some tough times, say, can I pray for you? They may or may not care. But if you pray for them believing that it will help them. Now, maybe the trials that they're going through are to get their attention, to bring them to you. And they're not going to easily go away, because if they easily go away, they may go back to their life again. Always, whenever you pray for somebody who's in some kind of an affliction, pray for two things. Pray for the strength to bear up to it, and pray that it's taken from them at the appropriate time when God feels that they have learned something. Trials are to tone us up. We work out in the gym to tone us up. I have my free weights here that I work with. I go for hikes. We have to stay physically strong, but we also have to stay mentally strong. This is a muscle too. It's not just dead weight up there filling the gap between our ears. You've got to work it. You've got to implant the Word of God as often as you can. You don't have to read the entire book every time you sit down, but you do have to read some of it. And I was talking to someone on the chat yesterday or the day before. There are Bible reading plans. Find one. Samuel Burnett said that if you were to want to read the Bible from cover to cover, reading slowly like I'm talking, you can do it in 72 hours. Now, he's read the Bible cover to cover hundreds of times. I'm not saying that we have to do that. I certainly have not done that. I detest reading. I do it because it's important. But for me, reading is a failure because most authors, when they write a book, are trying to paint a picture in your mind. A good author is going to be descriptive in describing everything that he sees. I don't paint pictures in my mind when I read. I take the words literally for what they are. I find myself reading to myself, reading quietly. You see my mouth moving all the time. I may be reading silently like I always do, but I tend to mouth the words. I say every word. Some people can just scan the page and read down it. I can't do that. I don't visualize. I don't read well. But even someone who doesn't read well can be taught by the Word of God. And that's the key. We've got to be taught if we don't know. And if we do know, we have to be reminded. Jesus in one of his letters says, don't forget your first love. We have to be reminded. If you're married to someone, remember what the first year or two were like. You say, I can never get back there. Well, you can if you think you can't. But if you think you can, you can. We got some bike riders going through. That's something you can do at a state park, is just bring your bikes. You can have street bikes and just ride the roads, or you can have mountain bikes and ride the mountain trails that they've set up for bikes. They're accommodating here. So anyhow, you should be doing something, anything, to further God's kingdom, to help people. The easiest thing you can do is just to simply be a cheerful countenance that people can see. Why are you so happy? And the love for one another that you have. It's not just love for Christians. We don't have to love the world, but we can love the people in it. You don't have to love sin, but you can love the sinner. Show it. Everybody will get to a low point. Everybody, every human being will have a low point where they finally have no other place to go but to call out to God. Be the one there to help. God will give you the words to say. Part of your morning prayer can be, give me someone to talk to you about you. And he will. If you've never done it before, don't worry. It's just carrying on a conversation with somebody you know or don't know, doesn't matter. If you don't know them, you're going to get to know them. If you know them, It's just a conversation. Do you ever sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk about sports? Well, some of our athletes are Christians. You can talk about them. There's plenty of avenues that you can have en routes to get to people. Just trust God that He will bring the right people to you. If somebody is a temperament that you can't deal with, God's got somebody out there for him. Do your best, but don't worry about it. God will bring to you the people that you can relate to. All right, now to wrap up, there's more in James that we could read. You should have recognized at least 2 of the verses that we were reading. I only went to the first chapter. There's plenty more there. It's a small book. Was it 4 or 5 chapters? I forget now, but it's not very big. Towards the end, these were just kind of, oh, I want to make sure you had this. And they wrote it down. Tomorrow for me is a moving day. And this is an unknown moving day because I'm going to be moving to a campsite I've never camped at before. And on top of that, this is a no-frills campsite. There's no electricity. There's no water at the campsite. There is water throughout the park. I will have to go fill up my bottles and jugs and bring them back and then repeat that as necessary. I don't know, I don't think I can get ice in the park. This is a county park, not a state park. But I'm real close to a city that I can get into. There's a gas station, a Dollar General, just like I have here. And I know I can get ice there, so I'll be able to keep food. But I don't know. I've got 1 bottle of propane left. That should be long enough to last. I've had that other bottle I've had for a couple of months. I don't cook on it all the time. When I have electricity here, I can actually cook in my tent. I have a little single burner dorm room thing. I don't cook smoky, oily things in that. I can fry eggs in it. I can heat up things in a pan. I can boil water and hard-boil eggs, things like that. I don't do major stuff inside the tent. It's not good in general to have a flame in your tent. My tent, all the flaps come down. So all the way around, I've got circulation. And the top is open. It's got mesh up there, but it's open. So I'm not going to build up anything in there. I do have a carbon monoxide alarm just in case I do, but I don't know how I could. As long as I've got the flaps open, I'm good. But in general, be careful cooking or doing any kind of a flame. Now this is an electric burner, but be careful of flames. I would not cook with my propane inside there. What if it got knocked over? I don't know if the electric one has a being knocked over switch, but it's flat. And I put my hand underneath it, and it's not hot at all. After I've been cooking for a while, I can feel the bottom is warm, but I can touch it comfortably. So it's not going to burn the table or anything else that it's on. I wouldn't want to leave it on. I don't start something and then go off and do something and come back like you might at home. But even at home, you could burn something by forgetting that you had a pot on the stove. Precautions, common sense. If you don't have common sense, then you're not common. Everybody has common sense, but a lot of it has to come from learning. If you've ever messed up something, if you've ever burnt food on the stove and had to go out and order a pizza, the likelihood of you burning something on the stove has been diminished. Unless, of course, it's a motive for you to order pizza. We learn through life. We learn through observing. I know people that I have met in my life that were an influence to me. The pastor that ran the serviceman center that I went to, a very gentle man. We had a lead pastor in the church who did the preaching. He'd get up there and he'd He could do a fire and brimstone if he needed to. He didn't always, but he could. But the pastor that I knew that headed the serviceman center, he was calm, meek. I'm sure he's raised his voice at least once in his life, but that may be it. He could put up with things. They would just roll off his back. And I was probably a pain to him at times back then too, because I didn't understand some of the things that were going on. I was still learning. We have to grow individually, but we have to grow in God, not in the world. The world will not accept us, and it's getting ready to really crack down. The harlot's got a little time left to do things, and the harlot has to have blood of Christians on her. We're told that. Which means that we need to get raptured and get out of here. And the Christians that will have to endure that will be ones that were sitting on the fence and wouldn't make up their mind. Or maybe ones that had learned the wrong religion under the guise of being Christians. One religion thinks Jesus came to the United States. No. What did the United States have to offer, at least during Jesus' time? He'd have been dealing with the Indians. It wasn't until 1492 Columbus sailed the ocean blue. It wasn't until then that we even became a known commodity. People will make up anything. I've found, though, that sometimes the greater the lie, the greater the believability. Satan is good at that. Now, we can have Christians in every religion. You can have a Buddhist Christian. Now, I don't know how you can do that exactly. I'm just speculating. But you can have somebody come out of any religion in the world and become a Christian. We're getting Christian Muslims. The church is actually flourishing in some of these countries over there. They have to stay underground. But there are evangelists in Iran. They get caught, they get arrested, they get thrown in prison. Their Bibles are confiscated. I like to talk about Samuel Barnett, John Samuel Barnett, a very good Bible scholar and teacher. He's got some of the things old school taught, especially in Revelations, but I forgive him for that because the way that it was taught 100 years ago was totally different than the way it needs to be taught now. We didn't know. But one of the things that he would do is, in growing up as a young evangelist, he would travel to foreign countries. He'd be driving a car with a van full of Bibles, taking him into a country that would never allow him in. Yet he tells the story that he gets to the gate, the inspection gate, right as they're changing guards. And the current guard going out looks at these Americans and thinks they've got to be smuggling something, but I don't want to be bothered. I'm going home in a bit, and if I have to search this, I'm going to be here over my hours, and they didn't get overtime. So they let him through. God will work a miracle. But they learned spreading the gospel is one of the most important things that we can do. If it's just one at a time, that's okay. Somebody like him could get 20,000 Bibles in. And then the person that's there to receive them, he would say, his fingernails were all black. Because every time he got arrested, they would drive wood underneath his fingernails for pain to try to stop him. Good, zealous Christians, you can't stop. God bless him for what he did and for the people that received the Bibles. And that's still going on today. different people, maybe a different country, but the gospel is going out. And as we get the satellite systems out there where people can receive right in their own home the Bible. Now, places like China, they try to block certain channels because they control the internet, but it's impossible to block everything. During World War II, we would set up transmitters, some of them mobile, and broadcast radio signals into Germany and other countries to let them know what's going on, to let them know we're still fighting, because they were dealing with the propaganda that was coming out. All the stuff that we're going to be dealing with more and more. You turn on the evening news, it's propaganda. What do we got? Had a phone call coming in. I have it muted so they can't see, but I didn't recognize the number. If I wasn't talking, I might have answered it, but distract. Okay, I've reached my size limit and this is going over. And this is just my Bible study. Okay, this is going to take a while to upload. So I better end it here and go get the process going. Do something for God today. Please Him. Talk to somebody about God and do it with a cheerful heart. Till we meet in the clouds. God bless.